I just want to take this moment to express my gratitude for the technology we have in the 21st century. It is amazing. I'm just so grateful for it. And the reason this is on the forefront of my mind is because I recently bought a new iPhone 13 mini. And there's kind of a story behind it. So this is my fourth iPhone 13 mini that I currently own. Might seem kind of crazy, but I find them to be so useful. And I use them as tools to accomplish kind of what my mind envisions. Now, how this all came about with this recent one. So this recent one too, I'm not using a case. I only know 3 other people that don't have a case on their smartphones. Now, how this came about is I'm really close friends with Sammy Saab, Matt Bones, and they're in the band Bone Lane. And so we were together, and they were about to go on the sold out tour on the West Coast. And we were kind of talking about just logistics and what's going on. And I was like, you guys got to get footage. Like, you guys need, like, what's your plan kind of for this? And they were going to use both their phones. One's an Android, one's an iOS. And I was like, here. I was like, use this. So I had one of my 13 minis and a tripod and a charger. And I was like, use it. And then I kind of gave them instructions on how to use it, how to upload it, what to do with storage, so that on their tour they had more devices. And as they performed the shows, they just relied on just the iPhones. Because there's issues that come up with Androids, and the difference between like iOS and Android for phones is that like iOS is very compatible with many other kind of like devices within the ecosystem, whereas Android is kind of like, it can be a great device in itself, but not as connectable to other devices. So they use it. So I was down an iPhone. So then I only had, let's see. I have 4 iPhone 13 minis. So one is in California right now. So we have 3. And then I also have an iPhone 8 that I use. And so now that this one was gone, I was like, well, I'm down one. I want another one to use while this one's being used on the West Coast. And I had been kind of saving up to invest in a GoPro, because with the GoPro, there's like this wide lens, like fish lens you can use, which I found to be pretty effective when recording things from behind like a crowd. It gives a really cool angle. But when I was in Miami, something I do when I travel, I really enjoy photography and exploring a place and the culture through photography. And then I was at Vizcaya Museum and Gardens, and I found out how to use this like fisheye thing on the iPhone. I was like, whoa, this is amazing. So I thought, why get a GoPro when right here it proves that the iPhone is more useful to me, right? Like, I just lended it to a friend and instructed him how to use it. Super intuitive. So I was like, I'm gonna get an iPhone. So I went to the Apple Store. I also will go to the Apple Store and just talk to the employees and ask them what their favorite devices are by Apple, their favorite Apple products, and why. And sometimes they have like classes, so I'll sit in on classes. It's just like it's really interesting because a lot of how I approach life is like following kind of laws of nature and reflecting on nature and our connection to it as humans. I go to the Field Museum all the time, and how we're all kind of a part of a bigger kind of ecosystem. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna get a new one. And then I started looking for like cases and screen protectors. I was like, wait a minute. I'm just going to use this as my personal phone. And then so I shifted my personal phone to work phone. I was like, let's really experiment with this device. You know, it's 2023. I imagine the materials we're using are better than what we had even 5 years ago, 3 years ago. So when people see I don't have a case, because I ask them, like, why do you feel kind of anxious about not having a case? And they would say like, oh, mine broke before. And I was like, well, what phone was it? And they're like, oh, iPhone 5, right? So we're testing it out. Anyways, I'm just so grateful to just be living at a time where this is a thing. Like, way to go, humans. Like, way to go, Homo sapiens, to create this. And its capabilities is astonishing. I don't use phones the way most people do. It was expressed to me by Kat Kennedy, who works mission control at NASA, that this phone right here has more technology in it than what NASA had to get to the moon in 1969. I think it's incredible, and like, why not explore that and think about it? And how can I, as an individual, then kind of take advantage of that? And I think that's kind of, I think we're kind of at the forefront of this bigger wave that's coming of using technology to design the lives that we want to be living, and let technology do more of the heavy lifting, where we're just kind of using our minds to kind of manage the applications of the technology and the tools that we have. And so I'm just so proud of our species for getting to this point that I can be living in this. This is amazing. This is amazing. 2 years ago, this was in 2021, I took data off my phone. So I stopped paying for data. And so I just had the device and texting and calling on it. And so I did it for 2 months until I put data back on. The 2 months were very interesting because I had to be really thoughtful and intentional about how I use it, and like going out, kind of thinking ahead. Because I would think about when I was in college and we had a separate phone, separate digital camera, and then an MP3 player, like an iPod, you know, like all separate. And notebooks, like all separate, right? Whereas now everything's all in one device. But I would think back to that time and how I used my devices back then. I can all do without data. So for these 2 months, I could still use a camera and listen to music. I would download music ahead of time and listening to it on my phone. And it could still text and everything. What I found, the reason why I put data back on is because email and ride shares like Uber. If I ever wanted to get connected to the internet, I would have to log on to the Wi-Fi of the place wherever I was at, right? So if I'm at a restaurant, bar, then I gotta get their Wi-Fi then, or I'm in a hotel lobby right now, I'd have to get their Wi-Fi, and it's kind of a lot of hassle. And then also if you're out at night, say don't recommend this, but like, you know, if you're out at like 1:30 in the morning, you don't want to have to rely on Wi-Fi somewhere to get a ride back to your home. So that's kind of why. But the 2 months were interesting. I felt more aware and just kind of conscious. I really do put a lot of effort into not abusing the technology individually, you know? Like, so, like on my way here, I took a bus, and everybody on the bus is like this. Or most people are like that, and then there are a few people with headphones on, and they're, you know, like that. It's just not how I want to live. And I understand it's a commute and everything, but to me, it's those opportunities that provide practice for habit building. I don't want to live my life on autopilot. And that's kind of the danger in these devices and the technology that is capable. I want to be alive and aware of the life I'm living, and again, designing it how I want to be living that will bring me the most fulfillment, joy, through purpose. So that's been on my mind. Just the gratitude of the technology we have, its capabilities, and how we can use it individually to design and live our best lives. And then second, a follow-up on that is to connect with each other so that we can solve problems, collaborate, solve problems of our time at a quicker and quicker rate, so that more and more people have the ability to live the lives they dream. This is the world that I live in and I want to create. I want to build on it. That's what excites me. So cheers to technology.